Welcome to the Kimberly Cloud Show. I'm your host, Kimberly Cloud. I have a very, very special guest here for the show today. Can you go ahead and announce to the world who you are and where you're calling from?
My name is David Kempf, and I'm calling from Bucks County, Pennsylvania, right outside of Philadelphia. And basically, I'm a fiction writer. I write novels and short stories and plays, occasionally children's books. I ghost write. I write for other people. I write for other people, and then I also work at a rehab hospital for people recovering from drugs and alcohol.
Great. You seem like you're doing a lot. You actually tell me about one of your horror fiction books that you've written.
Well, the last book that I published was called Tales of Monster Madness, and it was basically a bunch of classic characters like the Invisible Man and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Dracula, and just like kind of like reimagining them in different kinds of short stories. Like I have a short story called The Great and Terrible about Dracula fighting the Wizard of Oz because I thought that was an interesting idea.
Yeah.
So just stuff to like encourage, young people to read, people that might be familiar with the stories, people that might be a lot more likely to, watch a movie or play a video game. I think short stories offer a way for people to be able to read without investing that much time in them, and they still get the payoff of the beginning, the middle, the end, and getting to know what the action is and what the characters are about. And, they can leave satisfied without having to spend hours and hours of their time reading.
Well said. And how did you get your how did that I messed that one up. Okay, Halloween the movie. Halloween the movie. Do you get your creativity off of all the Halloweens? I we didn't even speak about Halloween, but I have a feeling that was an encouragement of many horror movies, that you've
Well,
seen.
it's actually, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Um, Actually, the originally what I got my inspiration from was watching Salem's Lot with the old one, 1979, with my grandparents, and it scared the living heck out of me. And I think I even slept with my grandparents that night. I was a kid, and holy moly, that little floating vampire boy scratching on the door. I don't know if you've ever seen the original Salem's Lot, but it really scared me. And then I started to watch. There was a creature features horror host named Dr. Shock, and he had a bat puppet named Dingbat, and they would show all these goofy old horror movies. And I started to watch that, and started to like the classics a little bit. And when I was a kid, I stole my aunt's copy of Jaws and read. I gave it back to her eventually, um, and read Jaws and got really into that. The Halloween movies, I didn't really see my first Halloween movie until I was um, 15 years old, because my we weren't 17, so my friends and I snuck into the movies to see a movie called Halloween 3: Season of the Witch, which is the only one that doesn't have Michael Myers in it. It's about an Irish druid toy maker who wants to bring back the real meaning of Halloween with child sacrifice with these killer Halloween masks. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie,
I
but
think I have.
yeah, I love the movie. You can't get that Silver Shamrock song out of your head once you hear it. But it's also interesting that you brought up Halloween, Kimberly, because I wrote a collection of murder mystery plays, and I got a blurb from Nicholas Grabowski, who wrote the novelization of Halloween 4. So there is sort of a Halloween connection there a little bit,
I kind of
which I was.
saw that. I kind
I,
of
I,
saw that like visual. Like, I knew it had to be some connection. And
yeah, I like Halloween 4 a lot too. That's another one of my favorites. I don't like all the Halloween movies, but I have a special place in my heart for 3 and 4. I like them both very much.
yeah, and I wanted to know if you were to ever direct, because the last, well, 2000 and maybe, the reason why I keep bringing up Halloween is because everybody saw it, and so what I wanted to ask you, the last question, about Halloween. Then we're going to move on to you getting several Writing Academy Awards. But first, I wanted to know about Halloween as in a sense of you directing it. Do you think that you would be able, you know, let's just be creative, to produce a movie or direct a movie and make it even scarier than every Halloween out there that's ever been produced and directed? I had to say
My guess is that I probably could not. Um,
don't
I,
doubt yourself.
I I used to make movies with my friends, and we used to make horror movies, and they actually aired on our local cable channel around like 2 a.m. when all the drunks were watching. I think it's a long time ago,
Yeah.
and I've only won like small awards like for my college. I won first place. In a short story contest when I went to Millersville University, and I won $50 in a pizza, and of course I felt like $1 million from that. But the closest I've ever won to winning like but I consider a significant, I guess, award would be my friend Jeff Oliver asked me to write a poem for a collection of poems that he and his friends wrote called Venomous Words. And it didn't make the nomination, but it made the final ballot for the Bram Stoker Awards, and that, of course, was a collaborative effort. And most of that was Jeff's work. I just contributed a little bit, but at least I can always put that I you know I have some connection to the Bram Stoker Awards. I've have some friends, some writer friends who've won the Bram Stoker Awards, and like I think the biggest reward for me was getting a blurb from the late William F. Nolan, who was like my favorite writer. And he was like a very kind, humble, good guy. And on top of that, he wrote some just amazing things. Like he wrote the screenplay for Trilogy of Terror. I don't know if you ever, I don't know, you might be too young to remember that one.
I'm
Uh,
addicted to it, definitely.
it's it's the one that has the voodoo doll with Karen Black. She takes the tag off it and it chases her all over her apartment. He
I'm,
also wrote the screenplay for Burn Offerings. I don't know if you ever saw Burn Offerings. That was a scary movie. And of course, he wrote the novel Logan's Run. I don't know if Logan's Run is familiar to you.
I heard of Logan's Run. Yes.
Yeah, it was like a future society where people didn't have to work and there was no stress, and they could have as much sex and drugs as they want, but everybody is exterminated at the age of 30. When you turn 30, you get euthanized by the government. So I consider it to be like right up there with like 1984 and Animal Farm and Brave New World and things like that.
Just
So
think
that
of
was,
what it would be like if that was true. So much history would get reset to the point make our own history. Baby boomers and people in their 40s to baby boomers to elderly would no longer exist. And that would be a very scary world.
yeah, because you need to be able to remember the past and to remember history, and the best way to do that is by speaking to people who are still living who lived through it. Sure,
Yeah, tell me about
absolutely.
your several writing awards, including first place in Millerville's University Lemuria magazine, a short story competition.
Yeah, that was that was the one where I won $50 in a pizza.
Well, that's still good. That shows completion, that shows dedication, that shows determination, that shows that they like what they saw and they like the actual book that they read. So, can you tell me more about the children's book, two children's
Well,
books that you read?
well, the one is a scientific sort of book. It's called "Tell Me More About Earth." It has all the facts about the solar system and some stuff about the Earth, and it's like told from the perspective of like an outer space teacher, with their alien students in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So tell
And
me,
that was
how far does it take to get to the moon?
I
Yeah,
don't remember off the top of my head.
it's okay. So you wrote in another galaxy or another perspective about a
But yeah, just basic scientific facts about the Earth. I don't have the book in front of me, and I was never very good at science for the most part. I think it was just the science fiction aspect because I knew the illustrator would do a good job, designing the aliens. So I think that's why I went with that one.
what
The
kind of
other,
aliens did they draw?
oh, like the teacher had like tentacles drawing on the drawing on the blackboard, and the I think a couple of the students had multiple eyes. I think they had like a robot mascot. The way that there's like guinea pigs or whatever in kids' classrooms sometimes. Um, I just wanted to say the other book is called The Wisdom Tree, which is actually a children's book about addiction, which is not a very common thing. And I wrote that with my son Andrew, and he was 8 years old when we wrote that together. I wanted to give him the experience of writing a book with me, and he's much more into acting and stuff like that now. He was the lead male role, at least children's role in the Diary of Anne Frank at his school, where he played Peter, Anne Frank's boyfriend, and he did a really really nice job. And he was just played the bishop in Frozen, I think. So he's heavily into the acting. He also did a couple of voiceovers for the audiobook versions of two of my plays. I completed two of those, and I'm hoping to complete the other two because there's four plays in that book, four murder mystery plays. So I'm going to be busy with that, and I'm working on a short story collection of ghost stories right now. And I just finished the eighth one out of 10. I'm hoping to finish the other two. And um, after that, I think I'm probably going to do a short story collection with science fiction stories. So keep
Wow.
him busy.
Yeah, you are a busy man and to have a busy family. Tell me about the book that you said all the book proceeds went to help those suffering from ALS. What is ALS?
That's basically Lou Gehrig's disease.
What,
Um, that I'm not an expert on that, but it's a very very painful disease where you like lose control of your muscles and things like that, and your ability to move, but you can still like feel the pain and the pressure. It's a very deadly, awful thing. So I got a bunch of people that I already interviewed on this website that I write for called Masters of Horror UK. I got a bunch of people to agree to let me use their interviews in a book called The Horror of It All. And we gave the proceeds to people suffering from ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. And I was helped by a gentleman by the name of Rocky Wood, who used to be the president of the Horror Writers Association, and he actually passed away from ALS. After the book came out, he died of Lou Gehrig's disease. So it was nice that we could raise some awareness and stuff like that. He was a very very nice man. He actually worked for uh, Stephen King doing some editing, and I guess he would be an archivist, is what I would say. Like if Stephen King would forget about, does this town connect to this town? What color were this character's eyes in this book? Like Rocky Wood had like all the details at his disposal so that the stories wouldn't contradict each other. So he was a very very interesting man and a very very nice man. So I was glad to be a part of that. And sometimes I think about doing a second book, but this time raising money and awareness maybe for suicide prevention, because I've known, several friends who committed suicide, and that's like something that's very dear to my heart. So I'd like to bring more awareness to that. People feel despair, or they feel like they don't matter, and that they cut their lives short by decades, and I think that's very tragic.
It is. Tell me about you having addiction and how it's to change your life into moving into being a counselor.
Well, technically, I'm not a counselor. I'm a behavioral technician, but there is a lot of counseling involved because you do talk to the patients, and I sort of feel like I have the advantage of being able to tell them not only am I in recovery from alcoholism, but you know I won't let them get away with telling me I don't know what it's like. I've even said to people when they've said you don't know what it's like, I'm like, you were literally sitting in my old room. I do know what it's like.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a wonderful place to work, to be able to help people. And addiction is really terrible. And God willing, if I make it to December of this year, it'll be 9 years without a drink for me. So
Great. And can you tell me about your radio appearances on NBC?
sure. Actually, my friend Jeff Oliver again was on the NBC House of Mystery show, and I thought it looked like it was really interesting. I didn't know what my chances of getting on were, but I got on the first time for murder and mystery plays. That was it. Um, and the second time for my novel, The Wager of Sin, which it's a play on The Wages of Sin, The Wager of Sin. It's the third of my book trilogy. My first novel was called Dark Fiction. The sequel to that was called Damn Fiction, and then the third one was called The Wager of Sin, and it deals with a college professor who's made a kind of a Faustian bargain, originally with the jinn, the evil genies, and then tries to do a deal with Satan there in the later books. So that the second time was for The Wager of Sin, and the last time was for Tales of Monster Madness, the short stories based on classic monster characters. That was the last time I was on last year. So it was a lot of fun. It's a good show to go on. You know, I guess they just don't want you to take yourself too seriously. They want you to have fun a bit. But I enjoyed being on that show. This is the first time I've let a camera film me while I've been interviewed, and my first live show too, Kimberly.
Where do you see yourself going in the future?
I don't know. I would like to can you continue to write short stories and novels. Like basically, not to be morose, but I am 56 years old. My goal is actually to write 30 really good short stories before I die. That is my actual life goal, besides being a father, obviously, and trying to help people with their addictions. That is actually my ultimate goal, because I don't think most artists are going to be like remembered, and that can be like a little delusional, but you still want to contribute, and you want to produce and write work that you hope people will remember you a little bit by, or at least that might inspire somebody to write or whatever. So 30 good short stories before I go away. That's that's my life goal.
Well, you're going to be here for a while. Don't say that. I may have you on the show 20 years from now where you like, you know. So anyway, how can the people reach you?
Just look my name up on Amazon, and there's a bunch of stuff there. You see my books, my bio, my blurbs from other writers and various people. And you know what? I should add that two of my short stories, the one about Dracula versus the Wizard of Oz, the Great and Terrible, and the one about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's called The Picture of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Both of those are free short stories that people can download for nothing on their Kindle or whatever app they use. So those are free. So you can get a taste of my work for free there. And, you can Google pretty much NBC House of Mystery to listen to my radio stuff. You look up Masters of Horror UK. You can see a lot of great interviews that I've done with my friend John Donis, who I've been working with for 17 years now, trying to get the best writer interviews that we can get for people to read. And I'm in between websites, or I'd give you a website.
Okay, I want to thank you so much for joining my show. Stay on the line. You guys take care, and I'll see you guys another time. Bye.